The door slammed shut, and the world outside vanished. Elliot's heart stuttered as the chatter of the holiday workshop faded, leaving only the soft hum of fairy lights strung across the ceiling. Teacher Lucas stood by the door, his hand lingering on the knob, his eyes locking onto Elliot's with an intensity that felt like a secret unraveling. Elliot hadn't meant to end up here. A community center in the heart of Willow Creek, Ohio, wasn't exactly his scene. At 19, he was more comfortable sketching in the margins of his notebook than joining a holiday art workshop filled with strangers. But his sister, Mia, had dragged him along, insisting he needed to get out of his head after their parents' latest fight over his future. "You're wasting your life drawing," his dad had barked, tossing Elliot's sketchbook across the room. So here he was, surrounded by glitter glue and pine cones, feeling like a fish out of water. The workshop was a kaleidoscope of faces, kids giggling over paper snowflakes, a goth girl named Tara meticulously painting a ceramic ornament, and a quiet guy named Javier who kept stealing glances at Tara's work. Elliot sat at the back, his sketchbook open, doodling the curve of a stranger's jawline instead of following the instructions to make a wreath. He wasn't here to craft, he was here to disappear. Lucas, the teacher, was impossible to ignore. Late 20s, with dark curls that fell just above his eyes and a voice that carried warmth like a fireplace, he moved through the room with ease, offering gentle encouragement. "That's beautiful, Tara," he said, leaning over her table. "Try blending the blues, it'll pop." His smile was disarming, and Elliot hated how it made his chest tighten. He didn't trust charm. Charm was what his dad used to win arguments, to make people forget the sting of his words. But Lucas wasn't like that. When he stopped by Elliot's table, his eyes lingered on the sketch, a half-finished portrait of a boy with sharp cheekbones and haunted eyes. "You've got a gift," Lucas said softly, his voice low enough that only Elliot could hear. "Why hide it in the back?" Elliot's face burned, and he mumbled something about not being good enough. Lucas just smiled, like he knew something Elliot didn't, and moved on. The workshop was supposed to be simple. 2 hours of holiday crafts, a chance for Willow Creek's youth to come together before Christmas. But as the afternoon wore on, Elliot felt the room shift. It wasn't just the glitter or the laughter, it was Lucas. The way he listened when Tara talked about her dreams of art school, the way he helped Javier with his shaky hands, the way his gaze kept finding Elliot, like a compass needle pointing north. By the time Lucas announced a break, Elliot's nerves were frayed. He slipped outside to the community center's courtyard, the December air biting his cheeks. He lit a cigarette, a habit he'd picked up to spite his dad, and leaned against the brick wall, exhaling smoke into the gray sky. That's when Lucas appeared, his sweater dusted with glitter, his expression unreadable. "Didn't peg you for a smoker," Lucas said, leaning beside him. His voice was light, but there was a weight behind it, like he was testing the waters. "Didn't peg you for a small-town art teacher," Elliot shot back, trying to sound cool. He regretted it instantly. Lucas laughed, a sound that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I'm full of surprises," Lucas said, his eyes crinkling. "So are you, Elliot." The way he said his name, it was too much. Elliot dropped his cigarette, grinding it under his sneaker. "You don't know me," he muttered, but his voice cracked, betraying him. Lucas didn't push. He just stood there, close enough that Elliot could smell his cologne, something woody and warm. "Maybe I want to," Lucas said quietly, and Elliot's world tilted. Back inside, the workshop resumed, but the air felt different. Charged. Elliot couldn't focus on the wreath he was supposed to be making. His hands fumbled with the pine cones, his mind replaying Lucas's words. "Maybe I want to." What did that even mean? He wasn't out. Not to his family, not to anyone. Growing up in Willow Creek, where church was mandatory and different was a dirty word, he'd learned to keep his feelings locked tight. But Lucas was unraveling him, thread by thread. As the session neared its end, Lucas clapped his hands. "All right, everyone, let's wrap up. I need to talk to a few of you about your projects. Elliot, can you stay back?" Elliot's stomach dropped. Mia shot him a curious look as she packed up, but he waved her off. The room emptied, leaving just him, Lucas, and a scattering of glitter on the tables. Lucas closed the door, and the world went quiet. He didn't say anything at first. He walked to Elliot's table, picking up the sketchbook. "This is you, isn't it?" he asked, pointing to the portrait Elliot had been working on. The boy in the drawing looked like he was carrying the weight of the world. Elliot swallowed hard. "Maybe." Lucas set the sketchbook down, his fingers brushing Elliot's hand. The touch was electric, and Elliot froze. "You don't have to hide," Lucas said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Not here. Not with me." Elliot's breath hitched. He wanted to run, to laugh it off, to pretend he didn't feel the pull toward Lucas. But he stayed, rooted to the spot, as the room seemed to shrink around them. For the first time in years, he didn't feel invisible, and that scared him more than anything. Elliot's heart pounded so loud he was sure Lucas could hear it. The community center's classroom, once buzzing with holiday cheer, now felt like a stage set for a moment he wasn't ready to face. Lucas stood too close, his dark eyes searching Elliot's face for something. Permission, maybe, or courage. "I don't know what you're talking about," Elliot said, his voice shaky. He grabbed his sketchbook, clutching it like a shield. But Lucas didn't back away. Instead, he stepped closer, his presence steady, like an anchor in a storm. "You do," Lucas said gently. "You're scared. I get it. I was too once." Elliot's throat tightened. He wanted to ask what Lucas meant, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he turned away, staring at the fairy lights casting soft shadows on the wall. "You don't know what it's like here," he muttered. "Willow Creek isn't exactly welcoming." Lucas's expression softened, but there was a flicker of pain in his eyes. "I grew up in a town like this," he said. "Small, judgmental, full of people who think they know who you're supposed to be. I left, found myself, came back to help kids like you. Like us." The word "us" hit Elliot like a punch. He'd spent years dodging whispers at school, avoiding his dad's suspicious glares, telling himself his feelings were a phase he'd outgrow. But Lucas was standing here, saying "us," like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like it was okay. "I'm not," Elliot started, but the lie stuck in his throat. He wasn't ready to say it out loud, not yet. Instead, he flipped open his sketchbook, revealing another drawing. A rough sketch of Lucas, mid-laugh, his curls catching the light. He hadn't meant for anyone to see it. Lucas's breath caught. "That's me," he said, almost to himself. He reached out, his fingers hovering over the page. "You see me, Elliot. Why won't you let me see you?" The question hung in the air, heavy and raw. Elliot's hands shook as he closed the sketchbook. "Because if I do, everything falls apart," he whispered. "My family, my life here, it's all I've got." Lucas's face softened, but he didn't back down. "You've got more than you think," he said. "You've got talent, passion, a whole world waiting for you." And he hesitated, his voice dropping. "You've got people who'd stand by you, if you let them." Elliot wanted to believe him. God, he wanted to. But the weight of Willow Creek, of his dad's expectations, his mom's silence, the town's gossip, pressed down on him. He took a step back, his sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floor. "I can't," he said, his voice breaking. "Not now." Lucas nodded, like he'd expected it. "Okay," he said simply. "But I'm here. Whenever you're ready." The rest of the week passed in a blur. Elliot avoided the community center, skipping the next workshop session despite Mia's protests. He buried himself in his sketchbook, drawing Lucas over and over. Lucas smiling, Lucas teaching, Lucas closing the door. Each sketch felt like a confession he wasn't ready to make. But Willow Creek was small, and running into Lucas was inevitable. It happened at the town's Christmas market, a chaotic sprawl of stalls selling hot cocoa and handmade ornaments. Elliot was there with Mia, half-heartedly browsing, when he spotted Lucas helping a kid pick out a scarf at a vendor's booth. Their eyes met across the crowd, and Lucas's smile was like a spark in the cold. Mia noticed. "You know him?" she asked, nudging Elliot. "He's cool. Kinda cute, too." "Shut up," Elliot mumbled, his face heating. But Mia's grin only widened, and he knew she wasn't letting this go. That night, Elliot couldn't sleep. He sat on his bedroom floor, surrounded by sketches, his phone buzzing with a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Lucas. Saw you at the market. Want to grab coffee? No pressure." Elliot stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the reply button. He typed sure before he could overthink it, then tossed his phone across the room like it burned. What was he doing? This wasn't just coffee. This was stepping into something he'd spent years avoiding. The coffee shop, a cozy hole-in-the-wall called Bean and Leaf, was neutral ground. Elliot arrived early, his nerves jangling like loose change. Lucas showed up in a green scarf and that damn sweater, looking like he belonged in a holiday movie. They ordered black coffee for Elliot, a latte for Lucas, and sat by the window, the world outside dusted with snow. "You didn't come back to the workshop," Lucas said, stirring his drink. "Did I scare you off?" Elliot fidgeted with his cup. "It's not you. It's everything else." Lucas nodded, like he understood. "Tell me about it," he said. "Your art, your life, whatever's weighing you down. I'm listening." And for the first time, Elliot talked. He talked about his dad's anger, his mom's distance, the way he'd always felt like he didn't fit. He talked about drawing, how it was the only thing that made sense. He didn't say the word gay, but it hung between them, unspoken but loud. Lucas listened, really listened, his eyes never leaving Elliot's. When Elliot finished, Lucas leaned forward. "You're not alone," he said. "And you don't have to figure it all out today. But you're stronger than you think, Elliot. You've got a fire in you." Elliot's chest ached. He wanted to reach across the table, to close the distance, but fear held him back. Instead, he nodded, and Lucas's smile felt like a promise. The coffee shop meeting changed everything. Elliot started showing up to the workshops again, no longer hiding in the back. He still felt like an outsider, but Lucas's presence made it bearable. They didn't talk about the moment in the classroom, but it lingered, a quiet understanding that neither was ready to name. The workshops became Elliot's refuge. Tara, the goth girl, started sitting next to him, critiquing his sketches with a sharp wit that made him laugh. Javier, the quiet one, opened up about his love for poetry, and the three of them formed an unlikely trio, bonded by their shared sense of not belonging. Lucas watched it all, his smile warm but guarded, like he was waiting for something. One evening, as snow fell outside, Lucas announced a special project, a mural for the community center's lobby, to be unveiled at the town's Christmas Eve festival. "I want you all to contribute," he said, his eyes sweeping the room but lingering on Elliot. "This is about who we are, what we stand for. No holding back." Elliot's stomach twisted. A mural meant exposure, something he'd spent his life avoiding. But Lucas's belief in him was infectious, and he found himself sketching ideas, a vibrant collage of faces, hands, and dreams, with Willow Creek's skyline as the backdrop. Tara suggested adding her signature blues, and Javier wanted to weave in lines of poetry. For the first time, Elliot felt like he was part of something bigger. But home was a different story. His dad had found his sketchbook again, this time with the drawings of Lucas. "What is this?" he'd shouted, his face red. "You're throwing your life away for some art teacher?" Elliot had stood frozen, unable to explain. His mom, as always, stayed silent, her eyes fixed on the floor. The fight left Elliot shaken. He stopped going to the workshops for a few days, retreating to his room, his sketches growing darker, jagged lines, shadowed faces. Lucas texted him, "Miss you at the workshop. You okay?" Elliot didn't reply. He couldn't. The fear was back, stronger than ever, whispering that he'd lose everything if he let himself feel. It was Tara who dragged him out. She showed up at his house, her black lipstick stark against her pale skin, and practically yanked him out the door. "You're not quitting," she said, tossing him his jacket. "Lucas needs you. We all do." Back at the community center, the mural was taking shape. Elliot's sketches formed the heart of it. A boy with a sketchbook, a girl with a paintbrush, a poet with words spilling from his hands. Lucas worked alongside them, his sleeves rolled up, paint smudging his arms. Every brushstroke felt like a conversation, every glance a question. One night, after the others had left, Elliot stayed to finish a section of the mural. Lucas was there, cleaning brushes, the room quiet except for the soft hum of the heater. "You're avoiding me," Lucas said, not looking up. Elliot's heart raced. "I'm not," he lied. "Just dealing with stuff." Lucas set the brushes down and crossed the room. "Talk to me," he said. "Whatever it is, You don't have to carry it alone. The words spilled out before Elliot could stop them. His dad's anger, the fear of being seen, the way he felt when Lucas looked at him. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, his voice raw. I don't know how to be me. Lucas's eyes softened. He reached out, his hand resting on Elliot's shoulder. You're already you, he said. And that's enough. The touch lingered, warm and steady. Elliot's breath caught, and for a moment, he thought Lucas might lean closer. But then Lucas stepped back, his smile tinged with something unspoken. Let's finish this mural, he said. It's going to be beautiful. The days leading up to the festival were a whirlwind. Elliot threw himself into the mural, letting it become his voice. He painted himself into it, a figure at the edge, half hidden but there, reaching for something just out of frame. Lucas noticed, but didn't comment, his silence a kind of permission. The night of the festival arrived, and Willow Creek came alive. The community center was packed, the air thick with the scent of pine and hot cider. Elliot stood by the mural, his heart pounding as people gathered. Tara and Javier were there, beaming with pride, but it was Lucas's presence beside him that kept him grounded. As the crowd admired the mural, Elliot's dad appeared. His face was unreadable, but his eyes lingered on the figure Elliot had painted. This is you, he said, his voice low. It wasn't a question. Elliot nodded, his throat tight. Yeah, he said. It's me. His dad didn't say anything else, just turned and walked away. But for the first time, Elliot didn't feel like he'd lost something. He felt like he'd claimed it. The festival's lights glowed against the snow, but for Elliot, the world felt sharper, clearer. His dad's quiet acknowledgement of the mural lingered like a bruise, painful but real. He wasn't sure what it meant, but it was the first time his dad had seen him, really seen him, without shouting. Lucas found him outside the community center, away from the crowd, leaning against a lamppost. You okay? He asked, his breath visible in the cold air. Elliot shrugged, his hands stuffed in his pockets. I don't know. That was weird. Lucas nodded, his scarf loose around his neck. Family's complicated, he said. But you showed up tonight. That's huge. Elliot wanted to say more, to tell Lucas how much his belief in him mattered, but the words felt too big. Instead, he kicked at the snow. Thanks, he mumbled. For everything. Lucas's smile was soft, but his eyes held that same intensity from the classroom. You don't have to thank me, he said. You're doing the hard work. The festival continued, but Elliot and Lucas stayed outside, talking about everything and nothing. Art, music, the way Willow Creek felt like a cage and a home all at once. Lucas shared stories of his own coming out, how he'd left his hometown at 18, found a community in Chicago, and came back to give kids like Elliot a safe space. I didn't have anyone like that growing up, he said. I wanted to be that for someone else. Elliot's chest ached. He wanted to be brave like Lucas, to live without fear, but every step felt like walking on glass. Still, Lucas's words planted something in him, a seed of hope, fragile but growing. The next workshop was different. Elliot felt lighter, like he'd shed a layer of armor. He laughed with Tara and Javier, their banter filling the room as they worked on last-minute decorations for the community center. Lucas watched from across the room, his gaze warm but careful, like he was giving Elliot space to find his footing. But the tension at home was building. Elliot's dad had gone quiet, which was worse than yelling. His mom started asking questions about the workshop, about Lucas, about why Elliot was changing. He dodged them, but the weight of their expectations pressed harder. One night, he overheard his parents arguing. He's not like that, his mom said, her voice desperate. He's just confused. The words cut deeper than Elliot expected. He grabbed his sketchbook and left, walking through the snow to the community center. It was late, the building dark, but Lucas was there, working on the mural's final touches. He looked up when Elliot burst in, his face flushed from the cold. Elliot. Lucas set down his paintbrush. What's wrong? Elliot didn't know where to start. He paced the room, his hands shaking. They think I'm broken, he said finally. My parents. They think I'm wrong. Lucas crossed the room in 3 strides, his hands hovering like he wanted to pull Elliot into a hug, but wasn't sure if he should. You're not wrong, he said fiercely. You're not broken. You're you, and that's everything. Elliot's eyes burned. He wanted to believe Lucas, but the fear was a living thing, clawing at his chest. What if they're right? He whispered. What if I can't do this? Lucas's hands found his shoulders, steady and warm. You can, he said. You're already doing it. Every time you draw, every time you show up, you're proving them wrong. Elliot looked up, and the world narrowed to Lucas's face, his dark curls, his steady gaze, the way his lips curved just slightly. Without thinking, Elliot leaned forward, closing the distance. Their lips met, soft and tentative, and for a moment, everything else fell away. The kiss was brief, but it felt like a promise, like a door opening. Lucas pulled back, his eyes wide but soft. Elliot, he said, his voice low. We need to be careful. Elliot's stomach dropped. Did I do something wrong? No, Lucas said quickly. God, no. It's just I'm your teacher, and you're still figuring things out. I don't want to push you into anything you're not ready for. Elliot nodded, his face burning. He wanted to argue, to say he was ready, but the truth was he didn't know. The kiss had felt right, but it also terrified him. Okay, he said, stepping back. I get it. Lucas's expression was torn, like he wanted to say more but couldn't. Let's just keep working on the mural, he said finally. We'll figure this out. They worked in silence, the air thick with unspoken words. Elliot painted with fierce focus, pouring his confusion and longing into every stroke. The mural was nearly done, a vibrant tapestry of their little group's dreams and fears. But as he painted, Elliot couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing at a crossroads. One path leading to safety, the other to something unknown and terrifyingly beautiful. The kiss lingered in Elliot's mind like a melody he couldn't shake. He went through the motions, school, home, the workshops, but everything felt different, like the world had shifted on its axis. Lucas kept his distance, professional but kind, and Elliot hated how much it hurt. He wanted to talk about it, to understand what it meant, but every time he tried, the words stuck in his throat. The community center became his sanctuary. Tara and Javier noticed the change in him, but they didn't pry. Instead, they filled the silence with their own stories. Tara's plans to leave Willow Creek for art school, Javier's quiet hope of publishing his poems. Their friendship grounded Elliot, reminding him he wasn't alone, even if he felt like he was falling. At home, the tension was suffocating. His dad's silence had turned cold, and his mom's questions grew sharper. You're spending too much time at that center, she said one night, her voice tight. What's going on with you, Elliot? Nothing, he lied, but his hands shook as he gripped his fork. He couldn't tell her about Lucas, about the kiss, about the way he felt alive for the first time. She wouldn't understand. Or worse, she would. The Christmas Eve festival was days away, and the mural was nearly complete. Elliot poured himself into it, sketching and painting late into the night. Lucas was always there, offering quiet guidance, his presence a steady hum in the background. They didn't talk about the kiss, but it was there in every glance, every brush of their hands as they passed paint cans. One night, as they worked alone, Lucas broke the silence. I'm sorry if I made things harder for you, he said, his voice low. That kiss, I shouldn't have let it happen. Elliot's heart sank. Do you regret it? He asked, his voice barely audible. Lucas looked at him, his eyes raw. No, he said. But I care about you, Elliot. I don't want to mess this up for you. Elliot wanted to argue, to say it wasn't messed up, that it was the only thing that felt right. But he saw the conflict in Lucas's face, the weight of being a teacher, of being older, of knowing how fragile Elliot's world was. So he nodded, swallowing the ache in his chest. Okay, he said. Let's just finish this. The mural was unveiled at the festival, and the crowd's reaction was electric. People gasped, whispered, pointed at the vibrant colors and intricate details. Elliot stood with Tara and Javier, his heart pounding as Lucas spoke to the crowd, thanking everyone for their work. His eyes found Elliot's, and for a moment, it was just them, the world fading away. But the moment shattered when Elliot's dad approached. He hadn't come to the festival in years, but there he was, his face unreadable. You did this? He asked, gesturing to the mural. Elliot nodded, bracing himself. Yeah. His dad studied the mural, his eyes lingering on the figure Elliot had painted, the boy at the edge, reaching. It's good, he said finally, his voice gruff. Real good. It wasn't acceptance, not fully, but it was something. Elliot's throat tightened, and he looked away, catching Lucas's gaze. Lucas gave him a small nod, like he understood the weight of that moment. The festival ended, but the workshop group lingered, cleaning up the community center. Tara and Javier teased Elliot about his starring role in the mural, and he laughed, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. Lucas stayed close, his presence a quiet comfort. As they locked up, Lucas pulled Elliot aside. I'm proud of you, he said. Not just for the mural. For showing up, for being you. Elliot's chest ached. He wanted to say something. Anything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he reached out, his hand brushing Lucas's. It wasn't a kiss, but it was enough. For now. The next day, Elliot went back to the community center, his sketchbook under his arm. The mural was still there, vibrant and alive, a testament to everything they'd built. He found Lucas in the classroom, setting up for the next workshop. Hey, Elliot said, his voice steady for the first time in days. Can I help? Lucas smiled, that warm, disarming smile that had started it all. Always, he said. They worked together, side by side, the air between them soft and full of possibility. Elliot didn't have all the answers, not about Lucas, not about his family, not about himself. But for the first time, he felt like he could find them. Winter deepened in Willow Creek, and the community center became Elliot's second home. The holiday workshops were over, but Lucas started a new art program, open to anyone who wanted to create. Elliot was there every day, sketching, painting, losing himself in the work. Tara and Javier joined him, their trio growing tighter, but it was Lucas who kept him coming back. They didn't talk about the kiss again, but it was there in the quiet moments, when their hands brushed while passing supplies, when Lucas's laugh filled the room, when their eyes met across the chaos of paint cans and easels. Elliot felt like he was standing on the edge of something, teetering between fear and freedom. At home, things were still tense. His dad's grudging approval of the mural hadn't changed much. Dinners were silent, punctuated by his mom's nervous chatter or his dad's clipped comments about getting a real job. Elliot stopped trying to explain himself. Instead, he poured his energy into the art program, into the mural that had become a symbol of who he was becoming. One afternoon, Lucas announced a new project, personal portfolios for each student to showcase their work. This is about telling your story, he said, his eyes sweeping the room. No filters, no apologies. Just you. Elliot's portfolio became his confession. He filled it with sketches of Willow Creek, the diner where he'd had his first job, the park where he'd kissed a boy in secret at 16, the community center where he'd met Lucas. He drew himself, too, not as the boy hiding in the shadows, but as someone stepping into the light. Lucas reviewed the portfolios one-on-one, and when it was Elliot's turn, the classroom felt too small. Lucas flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable. This is incredible, he said finally, his voice thick. You're not holding back anymore. Elliot's heart raced. I'm trying, he said. It's hard. Lucas nodded, closing the portfolio. I know, he said, but you're doing it. And it's beautiful. The moment stretched, heavy with everything they weren't saying. Elliot wanted to reach for him, to close the distance, but Lucas's words from before echoed in his mind. We need to be careful. He settled for a nod, his fingers tracing the edge of his sketchbook. The art program culminated in a small gallery show, open to the town. Elliot's portfolio was displayed alongside Tara's vivid paintings and Javier's illustrated poems. The community center was packed, and for once, Elliot didn't feel like hiding. His dad didn't show up, but his mom did, her eyes wide as she studied his work. I didn't know you could do this, she said, her voice soft. I didn't know you. Elliot's throat tightened. I'm still figuring it out, he said. But this is me. She didn't hug him, didn't say she understood, but she stayed, looking at every sketch. It was enough. After the show, Lucas found him outside, the snow falling in soft flakes. You were amazing tonight, he said. You showed them who you are. Elliot looked at him, the words he'd been holding back spilling out. I don't know who I am without you, he said. You make me feel like I can do this. Like I can be me. Lucas's eyes softened, but there was a flicker of hesitation. Elliot, he said, his voice low. You're stronger than you know. You don't need me for that. But I want you. Elliot thought, the words burning in his chest. He didn't say them. Instead, he stepped closer, the snow crunching under his boots. Can we just talk? He asked. Not as teacher and student. Just us. Lucas hesitated, then nodded. Okay, he said. Just us. They walked through the quiet streets, the snow muffling the world. Lucas talked about his life, his struggles, his dreams, the way he'd fought to be himself. Elliot listened, feeling the gap between them shrink. For the first time, he didn't feel like a kid with a crush. He felt like an equal. When they reached the park, Lucas stopped, his breath visible in the cold. I care about you, Elliot, he said. More than I should. But you're still finding your way, and I don't want to complicate that. Elliot's heart ached, but he nodded. I get it, he said. But I'm not giving up. Not on this. Not on us. Lucas's smile was bittersweet. Your trouble, he said, but there was warmth in his voice. Let's take it slow, okay? You deserve that. Elliot nodded, the snow settling on his shoulders. Slow was okay. Slow was enough. Spring came to Willow Creek, and with it, a quiet shift. Elliot's portfolio earned him a scholarship to an art school in Columbus, a chance to leave the town that had both shaped and confined him. He hadn't accepted it yet. Fear still lingered, whispering that he wasn't ready, but the possibility felt like a door left ajar. The art program continued, and Elliot threw himself into it, his sketches growing bolder, more honest. Lucas was still there, guiding him, but their relationship had settled into something new. Friendship, maybe, with a current of something deeper running beneath. They didn't talk about the kiss, but they didn't need to. It was there in the way Lucas's hand lingered when he passed Elliot a paintbrush, in the way Elliot's heart raced when their eyes met. Tara and Javier were constants, their friendship a lifeline. Tara got accepted to her dream art school, and Javier's poems were published in a local literary magazine. They celebrated at the diner, laughing over milkshakes, and Elliot felt a pang of pride. They'd all come so far. At home, things were still fragile. His dad spoke to him in short sentences, never mentioning the mural or the gallery show, but he'd stopped throwing away Elliot's sketchbooks. His mom started asking about his art, tentative but genuine. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. One evening, as the art program wound down, Lucas asked Elliot to stay after class. The community center was quiet, the air warm with the promise of summer. Lucas stood by the mural, his fingers tracing the lines Elliot had painted. This changed everything, he said. You changed everything. Elliot's heart pounded. You did too, he said. I wouldn't be here without you. Lucas turned, his eyes soft but serious. You're going to do amazing things, Elliot, he said. Whether you stay here or go to Columbus or anywhere else. You're enough, just as you are. The words hit Elliot like a wave. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. What about us? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What happens now? Lucas's smile was bittersweet. You go live your life, he said. Find out who you are, what you want. And if we're meant to be, we'll find each other again. Elliot wanted to argue, to say he didn't need time, that he knew what he wanted. But he saw the truth in Lucas's eyes, the love, the restraint, the hope. Lucas wasn't saying goodbye. He was giving Elliot the space to grow. Okay, Elliot said, his voice steady. But I'm coming back for you. Lucas laughed, the sound warm and bright. I'll hold you to that, he said. They stood there, the mural behind them, a testament to everything they'd built. Elliot felt the weight of the past year, the fear, the doubt, the moments of courage, and knew he was stronger for it. He wasn't just the boy in the shadows anymore. He was Elliot, an artist, a dreamer, someone who loved and was learning to let himself be loved. As he walked home, the spring air soft against his skin, Elliot felt a quiet certainty settle in his chest. He didn't have all the answers, not about his family, not about Lucas, not about the future. But he had himself, and that was enough. The next day, he accepted the scholarship. He packed his sketchbooks, his paints, his dreams, and said goodbye to Willow Creek. Lucas was there, waving from the community center steps, his smile a promise of what could be. Elliot didn't look back. He didn't need to. The road ahead was his, and he was ready to walk it.